Hello and welcome back to the Code Me event channel. My name is Gabor Szabó, and this time we are going to look at GitHub Actions, adding GitHub Actions CI system to Perl module. So we are looking at the MetaCPAN website where I looked at the recent uploads. So there's a link of recent uploads, and I bumped into this module. Actually, I have a script that will filter out the ones that are really interesting for our purposes. Here on the module, on the website, you can see that there is a link to the repository of this module, which is already a good thing. So I clicked through and found that in the repository, two things. First of all, there are tests, which is, again, good, but there is none of the CI systems in configured. So I figured I could have this as a little contribution to the package to add the CI system, because that will mean that every time the author pushes out any changes, they will be immediately checked on various platforms, even before the author releases this module to CPAN, where the CPAN testers will, of course, check. But this can avoid any errors there. So it can shorten the feedback cycle if something goes wrong with the package, and we can control the various versions of which version of Perl to use and on what platform and so on. So the first thing I need to do is clone this repository. So I'm already logged in, of course, into GitHub. I take the link of the module of this repository, git clone, and I clone this locally to my computer. E5 mass polynomial Chebyshev, that's where it is. I run Perl makefile PL because I noticed, well, I can see it here as well, that there is a makefile PL, so that's not an issue, I know that. So I can run Perl makefile PL. It would complain if there were any missing modules. So the normal way that cpan install deps, and this would install all the dependencies. Actually, let me check this out. If I open the makefile PL, it does have dependencies, but again, I guess I already installed them earlier when I was playing with this. So this already installed. This will install all the dependencies. Then the Perl makefile PL will prepare the makefile. Make would do all the stuff that needs to be done. I'm copying to blib. And the make test would run all the tests that are available. There are some tests, at least one test that requires text signature. I'm not going to enable that. That can be done later on. So now I can see that we can run the test locally and they pass. So we need to have the GitHub Actions configured. For this, I have a separate repository, which is called Try GitHub Actions, where I started to collect a few GitHub Actions configuration files for various languages. So I'm going to copy that. I already have it here, GitHub Actions, GitHub Workflows, sorry, and there is a file called Polynomial. Actually, before I copy that, I need to create locally the GitHub directory, and inside there the workflows directory, and I need to copy now this file here locally, GitHub workflows. And so what is in this file? Let me check. GitHub workflows Perl. It basically says that we would like to run it on 3 platforms: Ubuntu, macOS, and Windows. So Linux, Mac, and Windows. Here would be a list, or here is a list of the Perl versions that we would like to use. Right now, there's only 5.32 here listed. At the top, we see that this will be triggered on every push, and every time someone sends a pull request. And there can be other triggers, and we could detail in which branch we run the pull request, but here's just general. We set up, so this is some Perl version that we're going to set up here. This this step is only just to run, to show the version of Perl, so it could be useful for debugging purposes if something goes wrong, to make sure that we indeed install the correct version of Perl. Then we use cpan-m. Again, here we show just the version number of cpan-m, and then run the same command cpan-m this install deps, and the dot is important here to install all the dependencies of this module that are listed in the makefile here. And then we run the same three steps that we ran earlier. And that's it, basically. There are some extra code that I added once. I hope it still works. That would make it easier for us to see if there are any errors in the output of the previous commands. So basically that's it. Git now, but I noticed git status that it's not Git doesn't notice that there is a new file, and the reason is probably because in git ignore it's ignored, and you can see that the first thing is ignoring all the files that start with a dot, which is probably not a good idea. Probably it's better to ignore specific things, but let's see if we can try this one. So what if we say not ignore to GitHub? Git status. Okay, so that would also work to ignore everything that starts with a dot, but unignore. So not ignore to all the files inside the .github. So this is what we do now. But we could commit here, but we are on the master branch, which is the default branch in this repository, and we would like to have our own branch. So git checkout -b, and let's call it CI. Okay, so we created a branch, and now git add and git commit add GitHub actions. Okay, so that's the commit message, and then I would like to push it out, which of course will fail at the first because I need to set up the upstream and tell where to push it out. So I just usually copy it, and then this will push out. Oh, sure. Okay, so that's a good because I forgot to do one important thing, and I forgot to fork the project. So what I have here now, git remote, that's a good opportunity to show this. Git remote, I've actually cloned the repository from the original author, and obviously I can't push out to that repository. I would need to fork on my own on GitHub, so I have my own repository. Sometimes I do that, sometimes I do this exactly. So this is this is the reason I get confused sometimes. Anyway, so here I go back to the repository. So this is the repository of the original author, and I need to fork it. So I clicked on the fork button, and it will create a fork, which is basically just a copy of this whole repository in my account. So now I have the subgob and the same repository name. And now I would need to clone this, but I already did the work. Okay, so GitHub repo clone. No, so not that one. Code. Why does it show me this one? Okay, this one I need. Okay, I need this URL. Okay, so now I would need normally. I mean, if this is the path you're going, that you're forking and then you're cloning, that's what you do. But because I already forked it and I already made the changes, now I just want to add this repository as another remote. So I add git remote add, and I call it a name. I could call it the fork, or I call it subgob, which is my username. But let's call it fork, and put the URL I should put there, but it's somehow not copied it properly. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to add this as another remote to Git. Now, if I run git remote -v, then I can see both of them. And now the push command should go not to origin, but to this repository, which is called fork. So now I'm pushing out to the clone, the fork I have on GitHub. And indeed, it already shows up here that there is something that I could compare and send a pull request. But before I send the pull request, I would like to make sure that what I did works properly. So I click on the actions link, and here it starts to work. It will take some time to run all of them, because well, it takes some time, but we can already see that the one on Ubuntu works. So anyway, the point here is that once this, I'm going to send a pull request once this finishes, but once this pull request is accepted, then from that point, every time someone pushes out a change to this to the original repository, or every time someone sends in a pull request, this thing will run, and then you can see, let's look at actually the results. So here are the results of the installing of the modules, and you can see that it's installing this mass polynomial module, which was one of the dependencies. And we can also go to the run tests and then see this is the test run, the results of the test run. Here is also the skipping one, which could be, of course, changed later on. And so very soon you will get results from this. And if any of these fails, then you will get an email. So you can see now everything is green, meaning that all the tests passed on all the platforms. So we can go back to the code. And then here we have this yellow thing showing that there is a potential pull request. So let's do this. And add GitHub actions, that's probably enough, and that's going to be the pull request. Okay, so that's it basically, adding GitHub actions. Of course, there are many more options in the GitHub actions file. There are a lot more things that you can do with it, but it's a good start to get used to having GitHub actions and start seeing the results every time you push out any changes. So thank you for watching. Please like the video, please follow the channel, and you can see the links where you can, below the video, you will see the link to my website, to the Perl website, where you will see the details, the links to these repositories and all the stuff, the original copy of this YAML file that configures GitHub actions. So even if this is going to be changed in the future, you will have this copy of this original, and that's it. Or you will also find a link where you can support my work contributing to open source projects and creating these videos. So thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.